right. Beautiful state capital. Put this around here. There we go. There we go. All right. How's it going, everybody? Are watching from. I do enjoy seeing that from you guys. Here we go. Let's see. Oh, there we go. I'll get it figured out here. Uh Long day, guys. Long day. Let me know if you can hear me okay, if you can see me okay. Checking in from Savage, Doug. Good to see you, Doug. It was great to see you at the lobby day today. Thanks for stopping by. Don from up in Fergus Falls. Thank you for stopping by, Don. It's good to see you. Druid Cottage Grove. Thanks for checking in. Yeah, I'll give a recap of today and kind of where things are at and some new gun control that's been introduced. So, not going to stay on too long. It is, gosh, what time is it right now? About 5:30. And okay, thank you, Cass, for letting me know. I appreciate that. It's about 5:30, and just finished up with a long day at the Capitol. Started off with the wonderful gun owners lobby day. Thank you to the many of you who came by, chatted with us a bit, and went and met with your legislators. That's an incredibly important portion of this is letting your legislators know not only who you are and what you stand for, but that you pay attention. And that's really cool. Sarah from Duluth, good to see you. Charles from Two Harbors, thank you for checking in very much. Appreciate it. And we had numerous legislators drop by. Senator Dames stopped by, if I recall. Senator Lucero, Majority Leader, I guess co-majority leader, whatever you want to call it. Mark Johnson stopped by. It was great to see him. Senator Lucero stopped by. A couple of other legislators who I am forgetting, and I apologize. I'll go through my pictures and we'll post a good slideshow later on. Dan from New Ulm, protecting the Second Amendment. Thank you very much, Dan, for being here. Let me see if I can fix this. Uh, I'll get this figured out. It's been a long day. I didn't want to set up all my equipment, so I'm just kind of doing impromptu capital update from the truck. I'm not going to be on too long. It has been a long day, but I wanted to give you guys an update, especially since we have a piping hot new gun control bill that's been introduced. But if you guys have been paying attention to our social media feeds, you knew that we had a couple of pro-gun bills that were up today. One made a fix to the permit to carry application system. Asks for citizenship, which puts us fully in compliant with the FBI as far as NICS checks go, and we can talk about that at a later date. Send us a message if you have any questions about that. But then the big one was we had a bill which I call kind of stand your ground light. Not really a stand your ground bill, but what it did is it clarified in Minnesota statutes that the duty to retreat is not a thing in Minnesota. The only thing that matters is reasonable force. And so that's what we testified to. It was interesting. I made my plan testimony. I grabbed a big stack, and this isn't even all of it, of case law. Lovely case law. And here's some more case law. Big stack of case law, which is all the case law that you have to understand if you're going to be using a firearm for self-defense in Minnesota, or just utilizing self-defense in general as far as the obligations of the duty to retreat. And the duty to retreat is something that some people argue, and this was argued in committee today, that it goes back to English common law, but that's not exactly the case. English common law required that, I have the language saved. I wasn't planning on bringing that up, but essentially, English common law said that force should basically be a last resort. That if you can avoid using force if possible, that's ideal. So avoiding using force. 24 pack a case. Well, actually, more than that, Cass. More than that. Um, But so what some courts have extrapolated that to be is going all the way back to 1865, is that means that there's a duty to retreat, but that's not quite what the cases say, as was directed by some members and even legal counsel of the committee. Basically, what they said is that you shouldn't use force if you can avoid using force. Now, avoiding using force is not the same thing as a duty to retreat. But in 1865, and you can check this in Nine Donnell's Digest, third edition, I believe it's 4255 or 65, somewhere in there. You'll have to go to actually a law library to find it because it's not available online. I did look it up though. Is that basically it's what you would accompany is that it's a last resort. Last resort. No lesser force would suffice, that you're a reluctant participant, and if you can get away, that you should get away. All of that, all of those ideas are encompassed in the reasonableness standard, the objective reasonableness standard. So what this bill did today, which is House File 13 from Representative Matt Bliss, basically said that, hey, it doesn't matter whether or not you retreat, just use reasonable force. That's all we're looking at. And the reason for this is the Minnesota Supreme Court a couple months ago came up with a really terrible decision that basically said that you have to utilize retreat even before you use deadly force. And the fact pattern in that case is not a great fact pattern. And you guys have heard me say many times, bad facts make bad law. And that the attempt to use those bad facts was in full display between the Democrats on the committee today, trying to say, well, this case isn't that bad. This guy was swinging a machete around, even though he was threatened, that's not reasonable. But even so, what we're looking at is the holding. The holding of the decision says that prior to displaying, not even using, that's an important distinction, prior to displaying force towards another person, which would be assault in the second degree, you first have to exercise reasonable means of retreat. Now, assault in the second degree, if you draw your firearm out of your holster and don't even point it at somebody, that's assault in the second degree in Minnesota. So, what they're saying is you have to retreat before you even draw your firearm, even if you're drawing your firearm as you're retreating. So, this bill was designed to fix that, and you guys can check our testimony from that bill earlier today. So, I had my prepared comments about the all the case law there because I'm a big law nerd, and then I got called back up by Representative Duran to answer some more questions. So we went on another 6 or 7 minute exchange on that, where I was kind of debunking some of the statistics that they use. And this is just how low grade the statistics that the anti-gun people use is. They say, well, hey, 27 states have stand your ground laws, and Minnesota doesn't have stand your ground laws, and the homicide rate in all 27 of those states is higher than Minnesota. And that's not exactly true for all types of homicides. Firearm homicides, there are a few states that are less than us, but I digress. But that doesn't mean anything statistically. That is what we call correlation without causation. And actually, it's not even correlation because it's not correlating to anything. It's just saying, I guess it's correlating to the mere existence of stand your ground laws, saying that if you have stand your ground laws, therefore you will have a higher homicide rate. But that's easily debunked when you go back and look, what are the homicide rates before stand your ground laws passed and after stand your ground laws passed? And you'll see that there's no sustained correlation between those. That's an important metric to find. Before and after the laws passed, was there a significant change? Did that change differ from other similarly situated states? And what you'll find is that sometimes homicide rates do go up, but they go up in both stand your ground states and neighboring non-stand your ground states. So it's an insane exercise where they will cherry pick any statistic they can find that makes their data look favorable. But even if you just ask a few questions about the data, now one data point that would be particularly interesting if you were trying to say that stand your ground laws allow people to commit murder and get away with it, is you would look and say, hey, before stand your ground laws passed, there were X amount of justifiable homicide claims and X amount of justified homicide claim successes. After those laws passed, those skyrocketed. The claims of justifiable homicide skyrocketed, and people were able to utilize this. And you don't see that. The data just isn't there. You can check on the FBI Crime Data Explorer that it pretty much just stays pretty level with whatever the homicide rate is. The level of claims of justifiable homicide and the vindications on justifiable homicide pretty much remain flat. There's some variations, of course, but nothing that would indicate any sort of trend. So very very low grade analytics can often debunk some of those things, and that's how you can kind of tell at a glance is are they lying to me? Is the thing we're trying to measure actually being measured by the statistics that they're using? And when we're talking about justifiable use of force, justifiable homicide, and they're talking about overall homicide rates, you're not even comparing the same thing. You're not even looking for the same key indicators. So, that's yeah, I digress a little bit, but had a good exchange on that one, and that's where we're at on that one. All right, what you've been waiting for. What's this new crazy gun control bill that's being introduced? We have a Senate file. Let me pull it up here. 1596 from Senator Jen McEwen. This is a ban on semi-automatic military-style assault weapons. That's what we call basically fun firearms in Minnesota. If it makes you smile, and it's a rifle while you're shooting it, it's probably a SAMSA, as they call it. This would, of course, be any semi-automatic rifles that have an adjustable stock, a pistol grip, a foregrip, any of those features. And this is a prohibition on ownership. Also includes a mandatory buyback provision, and I don't know how you buy back a firearm that you never sold to somebody. That's an interesting take. So, so that's what's going on there. We're going to have more information. This bill is updated in our bill tracker at gunowners.mn /bill tracker. If you go to gunowners.mn, you can find all of the information there. I'm not going to go into this. Basically, it's kind of, we've seen this before. A ban on commonly owned rifles. What's interesting? Go ahead and enter in the chat. We've got multiple platforms going. I want you guys to tell me how many rifle homicides there are a year in Minnesota. How many rifle homicides there are a year? All rifles. Whether we're talking about semi-automatic, whether we're talking about hunting rifles, target rifles, 22s, all of those. How many rifle homicides do you think there are every year in Minnesota, according to our BCA database? And go ahead and drop that comment in, and I'll talk about one other thing before we get going. You guys do know that we have sued the state of Minnesota for the practice of, or for the passage of the omnibus bill, the monstrous omnibus bill that you guys have seen me talk about before, that had everything and the kitchen sink in it, including a binary trigger ban, which we argue violates the Minnesota single subject rule of the Constitution. We have filed that lawsuit. We are still waiting on the responses from the parties. We sued Governor Walz. We sued Keith Ellison. We sued the commissioner of I'm sorry, not the commissioner, but the superintendent of the Bureau of Criminal Apprehension, Drew Evans, and we sued Mary Moriarty. And we are anxiously waiting for the response to this. So we shall see. All right. We have some numbers in. Dana says none. Cass says less than 50. Then V2 Combo guy says 2 or less. Druid says less than 10, and Doug says less than 10. Guys, the answer is on a high year, it is 3. On a low year, it is 0. For the past at least 10 or 15 years. I know for the 10 years at least, but probably more than that. This is not a very pervasive issue here in Minnesota. This is one of those buzzword issues that they're going to do fundraisers on. I certainly don't think that they have the votes to pass this. But we will be working hard down here to make sure that it happens. Remember, the Minnesota Gun Owners Caucus is the only gun rights organization in the country, in the state, that has a daily presence down here at the Minnesota State Capitol. Daily presence at the Minnesota State Capitol, protecting and defending your Second Amendment rights. So we are down here. We are watching. If anything moves an inch on those, we will let you guys know. I will be updating you. Does mandatory buyback mean you are required to sell or you're just not able to buy anymore? Zero grandfather clause, Skid Marcus. Zero grandfather clause. So you either turn it in or destroy it, and there is no in between. So um, yeah, unconstitutional firearm bans have nothing to do with keeping us safer. Absolutely. It is all about serving their own political agendas. So, guys, I've been down at the Capitol for nearly 10 hours now. I am exhausted. I would love to stay and chat with you guys. I'll give us about 30 seconds for any more questions that you want to throw in the chat right now. And I'll restream this a couple times throughout the day. So, if you guys want to, if you're watching this and it's not around 5:30, 5:45 in the evening on the 26th, Wednesday the 26th, then you're not watching this live. But I do like to rebroadcast it. I know different people are on social media at different times and you get different alerts at different times. So I do like to rebroadcast this as if it was live, just so you guys can do it. You do know I'm live right now though, because I'm interacting with your comments in real time. So I know that some organizations do like to broadcast alive and then have zero interaction with the chat, which kind of indicates you maybe they're not actually live. But open and transparent with you guys. I don't see any. Go get a drink. There is whiskey with my name on it. Believe you and me. All right. I appreciate you guys. If you guys do appreciate the work that we're doing down here at the Capitol and in the courtroom, if the Democrats manage to, the anti-gun Democrats and the not so gun friendly Republicans do manage to get things by at the state Capitol despite our best efforts, we just double down and sue them in court, and nobody else does that. We're it. So if you guys do appreciate that work that we do, please go to gunowners.mn/donate, make a donation, join us as a Second Amendment defender, and that's the best way you can support us. The small monthly donations really help us, because we know basically, on any given month in the months to come, we have a good idea of the funding and resources we have. So we know what mail pieces we can send, what digital ad buys we can make, what printing materials we could do. It really does help us out. But lawsuits are expensive. Printing materials is expensive. All of the work that we do here is not free. And if you appreciate that work, please put your money where your mouth is and support us at the Gun Owners Caucus. So gunowners.mn, you can view our bill tracker there and see where all of these bills are. And I appreciate you guys very much. You have a lovely evening, and I will check back in with you soon. All right. Let's end this.